There's a lot of. I said activities and stuff. I was going to say that's been building that people for years. It's super.
Oh, it's like that's. Oh.
Right, but I really believe that, which is helpful, right? Yeah. Those are weird. I said it. Those has the guys. So we ended up in. I thought they were on the personal side. Oh, yeah.
Appreciate you reminding me.
Well, let's go ahead and call the meeting to order. It's good. Mr. Willis, I'm assuming that you have the attendance.
I will be completing that. Yes, sir.
All right, very good. Let's start with the minutes from the meeting in September 16th. Does anybody have any additions or corrections to those minutes? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve those minutes.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the minutes are approved. I am going to take the opportunity to welcome our new members, Mr. Enright and Mr. Macaluso, who've been just recently appointed to the commission, and hoping that our members in waiting will soon be with us as well. And of course, happy that they're here with us today. Let's turn now to Secretary Morales.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good afternoon. It's great to be here at another Business Law Review Commission meeting today. As you know, I have not missed a meeting since I took office. And I want to start by saying thank you for your continued work to ensure Indiana remains a national leader in business law. As we look ahead on 2026, our Business Services Division remains focused on a few core goals. First, improving connectivity, especially with those businesses represented by registered agent filers. Second, reducing fraud through strong security measures and smarter reviews, combining technology, including AI, and hands-on human oversight. In fact, one of my core pillars is innovation, and we are utilizing innovations to accomplish this. Number three, advancing legislation to stop misleading mailings that target small businesses, to steal personal information and overcharge for basic filings. In fact, I'm gonna pull out my phone here because as we were walking here, I was passed on a copy actually of one of these misleading mailers that people are sending to our fellow Hoosiers all over the 92 counties. So this is something that we will tackle at next year's legislative session. We also want to reinforce our shared direction for Business Law Study Commission. The updates to Indiana's business corporation laws are an important step in keeping our state competitive with Delaware, Texas, and Nevada, ensuring Indiana continues to be one of the best places to start and grow a business. My team and I continue to attend and congratulate new businesses all over four corners of our great state. In fact, I was just at an opening ceremony, ribbon cutting for a business recently last week in Southern Indiana, and we've been doing this in all four corners of our state. Thank you for your continued leadership and partnership as we make this a top priority. I look forward to working with you and continue to discuss hopefully our legislative agenda for next session. I have my team here, Jerry Bonnet, as you know, he is our general counsel. Kagan Prentice, our deputy general counsel. We have Scott Willis, our business division director, and Beth Swindle, our deputy. And I have my communications team here as well. So thank you all for joining. And to our new members, looking forward to working with you, and to our incoming new members as well. Thank you for joining. That's for me, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Mr. Prentice.
In terms of legislative updates, not much new from last time. I know for the the proposed amendments to the IBCL. I think we do have a author for that identified, Representative Jeter. I've reached out to his office. He had some conversations with somebody from the Indiana Chamber about this exact topic. So I've reached out to him. So hopefully he will be willing to carry some legislation for us. I know there is our office specifically will be focusing on sort of the deceptive solicitations and strengthening laws around that. I believe we'll have some support from the Attorney General on that. We're still trying to identify an author for that specific item. In terms of the sales tax clearance, I will follow up with our legislative counsel, Jake German, to see if he has identified where that will be at this year. I know he was looking for a larger bill just to tuck that into. So we were working with him on that. So I'll follow up this week to see if he's identified where that will go into legislation. In terms of anything else that I've been hearing, there's not much around this. This legislative session will be short, so I wouldn't expect too many controversial topics to come up. So that's all I have.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Willis.
Thank you, Chairman. As far as the deceptive commercial solicitations, as the secretary pointed out, we actually have, if there's anybody in the group that has not seen one of these and would like to see them, we've got some examples here. Glad to have Zach pass them around if you've not seen them. But it's really documents that are built, as the secretary shared, to either gain private information, no intent to do any filing, and or charge considerably excessive fees. 10 times through, I've seen $299 bills to file a BER, which is $30 with our office. And so it's really something that we want to cut down on. If and when you guys have a chance to look at some of the information I sent to you yesterday, we actually just got a report from NAS where this is just a significant issue among all the states. We did craft our language based on several other states' language that have things in place, but I think it's going to be nothing but get greater and greater sophistication around it. I actually shared also Zen Business when you get a chance to actually click through the links. If you click on the state of Indiana, I mean, it's a pretty deceptive. It looks like our site. It has the secretary's picture on it. It has the state seal on it. I mean, to an uninformed person or maybe a brand new business person, they could easily be fooled that it is actually our site. And when you click through, if you click through the search, it actually takes you to InBiz to do a search. But if you click through the file, it takes you then to Zen Business to file for a greater expense and hopefully hooking into a SaaS feature, you know, to do again a less than $100 filing for most folks forming an LLC. So it may even need to. I haven't really got a chance to talk to Mr. Bonnet or Mr. Prentice about it. We may even need to modify the language even further to account for that type of thing. And I know we've discussed, we're going to meet with the AG's representatives about it to see if it's something that they want to pursue from the standpoint of a cease and desist or something like that. So we'll keep everybody informed, keep you up to date, but it is almost daily that we have different examples of this and people, you know, filing complaints that they get on there and they have businesses formed and get engagements and have money taken out by a Zen Business or somebody like that. And they really had no intention of filing a business. Maybe they were mistakenly trying to do a search. I don't know how it occurs exactly, but it's something we need to be aware of. And as we're modifying different things and stuff, take that into account. The second point, I'll go ahead and hit point D on the agenda here. We have the ability to update and do a harmonization around the UCC rules, and we're going to pursue that. It's not something that needs to go in front of the legislature because we have the statuted mandate to be able to do it. And Commissioner Sullivan was kind enough to also look at that and validate that we were understanding the language correctly. So we'll be pursuing that. I definitely would like to, anyone that has interest or the ability to help us with that. I already spoke to Commissioner Barrett about it briefly. Obviously, he and Commissioner Sullivan, in some cases, literally wrote the rules. But obviously, as we harmonize and we seek to update it, we want to take into account a lot of the modern things that are happening. I know our securities commissioner and her deputy reached out to Commissioner Sullivan about some things that are going on around Bitcoin and cryptocurrency and things like that, and current legislation at the federal level, and where there's, desires there to do some things that they felt we just need to be aware of and take into account. Certainly, any of this group's knowledge and expertise would be appreciated in that endeavor as well. So that's those points for me, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you very much. Let's go move into old business and some of our current projects. The first item is the new commission candidates. Mr. Prentice, do we know anything further about where we are on our other three candidates?
Yes, we have been following up this week. So they are pushing those through as quickly as possible. Obviously, they have a lot of board appointments to make. I think they're just doing them when they are received and not necessarily in batches. So I don't I don't know if that's the most efficient way to do it. So if they seem to be doing the order in which they received the first two individuals that were appointed, or the first two that we had submitted documentation back for. So I assume it'll continue that way until all members are appointed.
Okay. Should tell them that our group starts with a B, so we should be early. We'll hope that maybe by the next time we meet, everything
Yes.
will be taken.
And I know this week, the main individual who is in charge of that, former Attorney General Carter, is tied up with the IURC interviews this week. So I think that is why we haven't seen much movement on it, because he is the one that reviews all these.
We've had some updates to the proposed amendments to the IBCL, and so I'm going to turn now to Mr. Hollingsworth, Mr. Gutmann, tell us whatever they would like to tell us about those. They distributed some paperwork for us all to take a look at. So
Certainly. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To refresh, the task force that Mr. Gutmann, Mr. Montel, and I participated in over the summer was asked to look comprehensively at updates to the Indiana Business Corporation law and to consider updates from the Model Business Corporation Act, as well as what has been going on in Delaware, to see if there were any changes that we could recommend to make our statute better. With the help of several of our law firm's associates, as well as law clerks, they did a fairly comprehensive review of about 60 different changes. And we concluded that there were really only 3 or 4 areas that we wanted to focus on. So those were presented at the meeting on September 16th, which unfortunately I was unable to attend. But my understanding is there was a general consensus around those changes, but there was one set of specific issues regarding the change to the shareholder records demand, which frankly is probably the most substantive of the changes which we proposed. And the context is that as a result of all the things that have been going on in Delaware recently, the Delaware legislature recently updated their shareholder record demand to limit that substantially. And it was the view of the task force that in some respects, Indiana should follow suit, while Delaware, for the most part, has greater minority shareholder protection than Indiana historically on a number of fronts. We felt like this was one area of Delaware where we didn't want to fall behind what Delaware was doing, where somebody could say that the Delaware law was more advanced or more sophisticated than Indiana. The particular source of concern in the Indiana statute, as well as what the Delaware statute, was the ability of any shareholder in a corporation to access quote unquote accounting records, which for any of those who practice recognize as a constant source of dispute and is a very broad term that can cover much anything. The Delaware statute it deleted that and instead replaced it, among other things, with agreements between shareholders and the corporation. And so that was what we had initially proposed at our September 16th meeting. After feedback from the commission and further discussion with the members of the task force, we have changed that. So instead of agreements with the shareholders, it now covers the material facts concerning a conflict of interest transaction. Conflict of interest transactions are already governed by a separate Indiana statute under the Indiana Business Corporation Law. Notably, conflict of interest transactions are defined as transactions between directors and the corporation and not shareholders, because one concern of the language was if you have a 1% shareholder that's got an agreement with the corporation, does that need to be disclosed or not? And we felt like it was better to track the existing statute. And so that's the change that you see before you, as we've taken out agreements between the shareholders and the corporation and replaced it with the material facts of any conflict of interest transactions as defined already in the Indiana Business Corporation Act. It's notable, we did have a robust discussion about whether we should stick with the word material facts or whether we should stick with agreements. And we did have a discussion about that. I think there was different views expressed, but ultimately we concluded to stick with material facts. That's the language, the phrase that's used in the conflict of interest, the conflict of interest statute. And we thought it was a better approach because there might be situations where there are transactions between, for example, a controlling shareholder and the corporation that there aren't really any agreements, but we thought it was a legitimate exercise with the proper purpose that's required for a minority shareholder to have access to those, at least a summary of those facts. So that is the update. Mr. Chairman, at this point, happy to answer questions, but it would certainly be my intention to ask the commission to approve all of the changes.
Okay, are there questions for the task force or just other general discussion we'd like to have on this?
I have a comment, a question really. I'm on the executive committee at the state chamber, and we were approached a couple of weeks ago by a couple of legislators who want to hop on to this issue generally, meaning keeping up with Delaware. They wanted advice on what we might do, what we might suggest to enhance the law. So this is going on in the background of that. David Ober, who was our head lobbyist, talked to Mr. Willis about it, but he's now left. He's now left the chamber. So that request is sort of hanging, and I haven't followed up on it yet. But I bring it up because if there are things that might have seemed like they were harder reach in your process, maybe there's an opportunity to squeeze those in addition to the things that you've presented here today.
Yeah.
No need for an answer right now.
We'll go back and look at it. That's a really good point. My general sense is that, and it was the general sense of the task force, and it probably needs to be communicated as well, I think, to the public and to the legislature. Look, existing Indiana law is far favorable to Delaware law in a number of respects, and that has been revealed lately through some litigation in Delaware and some other things that I think we've always had it right. Maybe we just haven't communicated that and so forth. This is probably the only example that I could recall of things that Delaware is now doing that we're going to quote unquote keep up with, but we'll go back and look at that and see if there's anything else we wanted to squeeze in. I think, our view generally of Delaware law is that, the changes, I think, are a little bit of window dressing in my opinion, of some of the fundamental flaws that they have, maybe not so much with their statute, but with, how it's been applied by their judiciary in ways that are unanticipated and have caused some businesses to seriously reconsider going to Delaware. So maybe it's a combination of doing that and then also kind of an education process of kind of explaining, hey, here are some things that we already have and we just need to get the word out.
That's a good point. And I think without regard to Delaware, just knowing that there's a willingness in some members of the legislature, influential members in the legislature, to talk about enhancing our product, whether it's vis-a-vis Delaware or not, is something we all should be aware of. And it was, the discussions were clear that this body was going to be brought into it. So in David's absence, in the end of those discussions that just began with Scott, I wanted to put that on the table.
Okay. Other questions or comments? Well, hearing none, then I will entertain a motion to approve the updated amendments that the task force has given to us, and suggest that that we recommend to the legislature that they be adopted. Is there a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, we have approved those, and we would, I guess, move ahead with trying to find ourselves an
Author.
author and make sure that that all happens. And I guess I would, in line with the discussion, I would suggest that we give some serious thought to two things. One is, you've got a lot of work product here that we could probably turn into something rather than to be circulated around to explain why we're doing this. And also, it seems to me there might be some value in the task force trying to turn some of that into official comments that
Yes.
we will adopt beginning of next year. And we've already talked about the sales tax clearance process changes, so I think there's really nothing much more to say about that. So then I guess what we will do is the last sort of item of old business, which sort of dovetails into what we're going to talk about today in new business, is that there was a request that Mr. Willis get some information about how many various entity types we have in Indiana at the moment, and he sent those out.
I did.
You want to say anything about those?
If there's any questions, I'd be glad to field any questions. I feel like what I sent out was answered what Commissioner Sullivan asked.
Okay. Well, are there any questions about those? If not, I think they are a good segue into some of what I want to talk about today in the new business, which is what we're going to be doing in 2026. But before we get there, I guess is Mr. Sullivan on the call today?
I don't believe he was available, sir.
All right, so we need to figure out where we are with the hub meta changes. I believe we got a task force for that at the moment. And so perhaps we can, that would be item number one that will be in our 2027 legislative package probably. I'm going to skip over B for the moment and go and see, based on what Mr. Willis has given to us, it seems to me that the biggest need at the moment for our attention may be the nonprofit corporation statute, which is almost 35 years old. And it may be time to, especially since the American Bar Association has now issued the fourth edition of the Model Nonprofit Corporation Act, which supposedly dovetails nicely with the Model Business Corporation Act. And we also have at least one state, Idaho, and maybe others that have translated that into the hub and spoke system like we have. I think it would make sense for us to create a task force that can work throughout 2026 to figure out what would have to be done in Indiana to update our nonprofit corporation statute so that it more closely is tied with our business corporation law and also with, the current thinking as expressed in the model act. I don't know if I have anybody in the room that is excited about chairing that task force. The crickets are loud here. Well, if people are interested in that but are too shy to say today, why don't you let me know, and I would be happy to either put you on the task force or put you in charge of it, which would be great. I know that I've got at least someone from my firm, I'm an associate that's interested in. I think we can bring some other people into that are not on the commission to help out with that, because it's going to be similar to the IBCL task force. It's going to take some time and looking through a lot of things to figure out what makes sense as far as and just sort of integrate into what the EA's way of doing things. So I would suggest, unless anybody has any comments about that, that'd be one of the things that we sort of focus on. Any thoughts about that, Jerry?
If I might, Mr. Chairman, mentioned, just for the order, the office has a relationship with the IU School of Public Environmental Affairs. Sub-organization, I'm not sure if it's a division or department, but it's called the Nonprofit Project. It's been around for many years. And they are devoted to studying nonprofit sector in Indiana. They issue quite a number of reports, so we could certainly reach out to them, see if they might have some resources in terms of input from that sector. It might be of use in reviewing those statutes.
I think that would be a great idea, because I think this is one of those projects that when people first hear about it, their eyes roll back and they think this is gonna be a big change, and I don't like change. And I think the more groups that we can get behind it, the easier it'll be when it comes to legislative time, and poor Kagan has to try to sell this to a legislator. We can say, well, we've got all these different groups that think it's a great idea, so you should think it's a great idea too. So yes, I think that we should do that, and I will be looking for someone to sort of spearhead that effort. So if anybody was interested in that, please let me know so that I don't have to twist any arms. But I won't hesitate to do that if I need to. The other thing that I think would make some sense, and I solicit, well, there's two things. I think I'd be interested in people's thoughts about this. Obviously, every couple of years, someone comes up and says, we really ought to adopt the revised, or whatever it is, the limited partnership statute and the general partnership statute, since ours are pretty old. I don't know that that's necessarily something that we want to prioritize, but I think that if there are people that are interested in looking at that so that we are ready, if another one of those bills comes floating into the legislature, we know what to say or how we're going to deal with it. That would be great. Alternatively, if people get bored by the time we get to summer and we're in good shape on the nonprofit thing, then we want to do that too. Why not? We could have a big bang up year in 2027 with all kinds of changes. The second thing would be we've got the LLC comments that are being worked on and we hope finished up sometime early in 2026. It strikes me that one thing we may want to ask that task force is whether there were any changes involved. They have been either in the course of doing the official comments that need to be stuck into this legislative proposal. That could be the answer. That is no. But it seems to me that since we have such a high number of LLCs that are created in Canada, that it might make sense to, if there are things that are apparent that need to be changed, that we might want to think about that. But I will sort of leave that to that task force to figure out whether they want to make any recommendations along those lines. Finally, I think there's been some interest in updating our operating rules. And so if anybody is interested in participating in that, I think that's something probably that I will be involved in, and maybe Janet and Keaton, or, we can be involved in that. I don't anticipate that it's going to be a huge project, because I think there are a few things in there that really need to be addressed. Changes in technology and what's happened over the last 4 or 5 years. But it's going to be something that I think they want to take a look at early in 2026. So we have an updated set of operating rules. So people who are interested in talking about those, let me know, please, and we'll be happy to involve you in any discussions. Then the last item of new business is our officer elections, which you'll recall that the last meeting we had was technically our annual meeting, but we didn't have a quorum, and so therefore we couldn't proceed with that. The candidates at the moment would be myself for chair, Janet for vice chair, and Keaton for secretary. Continuing on those. If there's anybody else that would like to nominate someone or nominate themselves, now's your chance.
Is it premature to move to close the nomination?
Okay, well, if there are no other nominations, then I will entertain a motion to elect that slate of people. I'm enthusiastic. Is there a second out of all those nominations?
Second.
Okay, all in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Okay, that, congratulations to all the officers.
Mr. Congratulations.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
can we amend the rules now to eliminate the quorum problem we had, where we had plenty of, I think we had enough people participating in the meeting, it's just there weren't enough in the room itself. And I don't know whether we have the authority to make that change now. I don't know, maybe it's controversial. If it is, then table it, but if it's not, maybe we change that now so we don't run into that problem again.
Well, we could certainly do that. I'm not sure whether, I haven't looked at it in the last week or so, whether that really was a problem so much as that we had more candidates. We had a majority of people, including candidates, but we didn't have a majority of people that were actually members.
I see. Okay.
To the extent that there is a requirement that people attend a certain number of meetings, my only issue would be, in person, my only issue would be, what do people believe is the right number, if it's any number, or are we so advanced in video conferencing that we really don't care? Whether you're here or by video, I'm not sure it matters. I mean, clearly we include them in our portal. We include them as being present. And so I think the only thing that's in there now is that you're supposed to attend a certain number of meetings in person where you have automatically resigned. Obviously, that's an issue for people who don't live in the Indianapolis area and they have to travel out here for these meetings. So do people have thoughts about whether we care how often people show up in person?
Well, one issue up the decision tree from that, we're an open door organization. So if we want to have video participation in voting, we have to adopt a rule that will allow us to do it that complies with the open door statute. Once we get through that, I don't know if we have the discretion to end people's membership. I think it lies with the appointing authority.
Well, I agree with you. I think we probably need to have Jerry revisit that whole issue we talked about before, which is, since we are not a committee of the executive branch, but of the legislative branch. I'm not sure what rules exactly apply to us. So we probably need to figure out what constraints there are on our ability to change the rules and whether I know we had a discussion a few years ago about, what we needed to do as far as posting agendas and doing all kinds of other things. And there were some things that did not apply to us and other things that did. But the law may have changed since then too. So I think that it would be helpful to have some parameters around what the expectations are for us. Obviously, we weren't live streamed back in the day either, and so, I'm not exactly sure, and I'm not sure what the look is either. If you've got a room that's basically empty and everybody was online, whether that has a sort of a bad look to it. But I don't, I think that I would be very interested in people's views on that. And if you're not prepared to give me your views today, that's fine. Either give them to me privately, or we can talk about it maybe in our next meeting. But I think we need to probably, at our very first meeting, probably in 2026, we probably be prepared to talk about what needs to be changed in those operating, so that we're in a position to update them quickly. Any other thoughts on that issue? Okay, then I guess we're at the public comments section. If there are any public comments from our public back there. All right. Is there any further business that anybody would like to talk about? If not, I think the only. Oh, yes, sir.
Yeah, I probably should have brought it up a moment ago, procedurally. I think what Scott did to set this meeting, to get this really good level of attendance, is a model we ought to have for the whole year. It's very hard to schedule these things one quarter at a time ad hoc, and I would request that we try to set out the 2026 schedule in full sooner rather than later.
Okay, you think that that's something that we could probably come up with? Let's start by saying, are there days of the week which are particularly good or particularly bad for the members of the commission? If assuming we continue to do it right after lunch.
Yeah, if we continue to do it right after lunch, Mondays are bad.
Okay, Mondays are bad.
Standing meeting.
Okay, any other days that are bad?
Just representing Commissioner Sullivan, I know at least right now, I think he shared that Wednesdays, maybe Tuesday, Wednesdays, I'd have to go back and look. Were
Okay,
bad for him,
okay,
but obviously that could be taken into account. My suggestion would be, if we could agree on the number of times you think that we should meet, and at least select the months,
good.
then I could do a similar,
Mhm.
put a similar thing out there. Everybody tell me, what days work for you in these months, and then be able to at least propose some different days that work for the maximum amount of folks, realizing some of the folks that may teach or some of those type of things. There could be hard stops for, Professor Will, Commissioner Sullivan, those folks, other folks that may be involved in set things, but.
Okay,
Or the other ideas, we can meet at 7 a.m. We open, I arrive in the State House at 5 a.m. We open both doors of our office at 7 a.m. So you guys more than welcome to do that too. So we can get the meeting out of the way before your day starts. So this is how we have raised the bar in the Secretary of State's office when it comes to business services specifically. I'm talking about this commission. We've been really focusing on helping our small business owners here. But I was waiting at the end, Mr. Chairman, because as Mr. Barrett said, I'm big when it comes to in person, and I'm grateful to every single one of you. And I'm not picking on you, Mr. Goodwin or Mr. Will. I know you guys teach, you guys are busy, but I'm one of those guys that I like to see the full room, as you said, Mr. Barrett, in person. I think we can see each other's, we can talk, we can bring your ideas. And I'd like to see this go. And as I said on my remarks earlier, I have not missed a meeting since I took office. And I'm proud to say that because I know other Secretary of State has been doing all of this. And not only I do this with this board, I do this with our auto dealers board, with our securities as well, and our elections as well. So tomorrow we have another one with our cybersecurity. So I'm always out there doing this work. You know, tonight I'm finishing my night in DeKalb County, close to Steuben County. So these are the type of things that we're doing. I realize you don't get paid doing this, so let me be. I realize that, and we're grateful for you for your service to our state. But I would like to see if we can meet more in person. So we will work with Scott, and our team will work with all of you to figure out what's the best time and date so we can get together.
Well, I know it detected groundswell of enthusiasm for 7
As someone that commutes out from Evansville, too often, Mr. Secretary, but I would object.
I guess, do we think that quarterly meetings are sufficient? We can always call special meetings if we need to do something in between. And we could, in theory, we could do video meetings too, I suspect, or other meetings if we needed to have something in between. But do we think that quarterly meetings are sufficient for our purposes? We're doing most of our work these days, it seems like, with these task forces. And so unlike the old days, we don't need to sit around necessarily and talk for too long about the minutia of language and statutory changes we want to make. So I'm wondering if we think quarterly meetings work.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. And then I guess the next question is, and maybe this is a continuing question. Does it make sense to be meeting in January when the legislature's around, or should we wait till sort of see the dust settles a little bit, maybe at least till February?
Probably February would be the good first meeting.
All right.
Yeah, at that point, this session pretty a little different. I don't know if that's obviously we have a special session coming up next week. So that may affect how much appetite there is to stay the entire time next session through mid-March. But even meeting at that beginning of February time, beginning of February, you're there before you meet before sort of that first half session ends. So that's probably a good timetable, especially for long sessions.
Okay.
Probably a good time.
Well, then maybe we need to think about February, April, July, and then, November next year. Is that, you think we could work with that maybe and try to figure out days that would work on, and then try to get on everybody's calendar?
Yeah, I would put together basically the same questionnaire.
Yeah,
type thing.
why don't we do that? And see if we can set up the meetings. And then to the extent that by doing it early, maybe we can also try to get the same location too, at least when we're here.
I can certainly do that for those
Alright.
that you want to hear.
If we wanted to go, on the road for one of our meetings, we could do that too.
I like that.
We did that earlier this year, so we could try to do something at another bit location. Okay. Other topics that anybody would like to discuss today?
I just have one other question for the commission. Commissioner Hollingworth and Commissioner Montel and I spoke about this at different times. Do we have a desire to try to gather up a lot of the historical documents and things where you guys have produced finished works that at least I don't have access to right now? It could be that possibly Jerry has some of them. I know maybe you have some. I know Joe mentioned he had some different things. I had to fill out a report for the governor about the commission, and it was just informational for the most part. But they only requested 3 years back, so I had access to minutes and things like that could be shared. But when they started asking about appointment dates for different folks that are currently that have been on the commission a number of years, I didn't necessarily know that specifically. And just, when the commission was formed, I could look that up, but I didn't have any, as much as might be desired. And so just put it out there. When you're redoing the operating rules, one, you need to focus on this section that says we have our annual meeting in September. We're gonna do this
Yeah.
schedule, but then also, if there is certain documentation or certain work products that you want maintained for posterity, then we just need to come up with a process to do that. Make sure it's delivered to me or whoever we designate, and then within the office, we do that. So that we have that for access.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. We've had a lot of situations where people have said, well, I remember we did this once. But we don't remember whatever happened to it. And so I think that to the extent people have things in their files, particularly those of us who've been around for a while, then we should probably try to collect as much of that as we can. You might talk to Steve Thorne and some other folks, and you might, I don't know, is Marcy still around?
A little bit.
You might talk to Marcy and see if she's got some stuff that she wants to clean out that she can come up with, and I will do the same. See if we can collect as much information as we can, and maybe we can just either scan it all or do something or other so that it's there and we can find it in the future for meeting. Okay. Anything else? Hearing nothing, then I will entertain a motion to adjourn. Second? Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Steve. Good. Not before.
Didn't know my level.